Welcome back. Of course, it's still Daybreak Africa if you're just joining us, and I remain Micheal Obagiri. Today we have a topical discussion before us. We'll be talking about the fake certificate saga that is going around now. We're talking about the federal government to investigate institutions responsible for accreditation of fake degree certificates. Well, we have a guest in the studio, an academician, a lecturer at the Adeyemi Federal College of Education in Ondo State, the person of Wale Oyedeji. A very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
I want to say compliment of the season because this is the first time we're having this year.
We're having you in the studio. Anyways, delving into the discourse proper, I'm sure you're already acquainted with the issue of the fake result, fake certificate saga. Well, starting off, the federal government recently, while investigating through the Ministry of Education, has declared or suspended every certificate coming from Togo and Benin Republic as not to be respected or accepted into the country. And also this follows the investigation that was carried out by the investigative reporter who brought out this whole scenario. However, I would first of all like to know your stand on this particular topic before we move further.
Once again, good morning to our viewers. Some of you are actually acquainted with my coming over here, and I believe today's engagement is going to be really intriguing as usual. When we are talking about the issue of accreditation, issuance of certificates, granting authority for people to create institutions is a very sensitive topic. It has to actually boil down to the collective philosophy of a people. What do they see education as? You understand? Because what you see education as determines your attitude and the behavior you have around it. It is the attitude that actually, determines the policies we make towards defending or perhaps sustaining the education we have. If you are like a about knowledge acquisition, for example, it will reflect in your policy. So when you are talking about people manipulating or perhaps issuing certificates illegally like that, it is a question of people's perspective, standpoint, attitude to education. If our education is generally, if our attitude to education is generally poor, that could be a result of it from my own standpoint. Because the problem of capitalism in the current time is now, affecting this bad philosophical position. People want to make money. Like, private institutions want to make money, and they understand that if they can wiggle their way, if they can, manipulate their way, maneuver things, they could make money through that, engagement. And that is one of the reasons why you have many universities, tertiary institutions today that are mushroom schools. You understand that they don't produce the expected mental strength, human capital that we need to develop the country. Could you just imagine somebody awarding certificate for degree course just for some weeks? That's very surprising, because you are going to be a bachelor of arts, a BSc holder. You must have undergone training, like training, a rigorous one, before we can certify you. But you are just 6 weeks into it, or how many weeks you just use in acquiring it, and boom, you are a graduate. It's a funny thing.
Okay.
Well, sorry, Michael. But now, getting into the issue, the guy in question, that's the investigative reporter in question, actually mentioned that he had already served, which shows that and during the process of registration, especially in the path of NYSC, it was not detected at any point, although he went through some rigorous, registrations and all of that, due to the fact that probably there were some loopholes as well from the institution of where he got his certificate from. So now this has mostly exposed many loopholes that are both in the educational system of the foreign institutes and as well as Nigerians, and also the part of NYSC. What's your take on it?
I wouldn't want us to heap the blame on NYSC for various reasons. Now, it is assumed that if you undergo training, naturally, school that is accredited, you are expected to at least, meet up with the basic standard, conventional standard. But when you look at the mental assumption that gave birth to the building or constructing institution in Benin or this and that, it is basically to make money. They understand that the Nigerian market, the Nigerian consumer market, education consumer market now, they need certificates. They need to attain higher institution in order to secure job like we usually have it in the current time. You get now the school available in the country cannot cater for the available consumer markets. The students who are seeking admission are far higher than the number that the schools can take. And you know, for the fact that we're a country that emphasizes the accumulation of certificates, and which is a normal thing, they seek to, you know, get this elsewhere. They need to look for alternative. And these people are saying, okay, come, we provide the alternative. And to a considerable extent, there is a limitation to which Nigeria can actually usher them on how they organize their education. Do you get it?
Sure.
And you acquiring knowledge outside of the country does not limit you or does not impede your ability to serve your fatherland. The essence of service is to get you acquainted with the various cultural dynamics of Nigerian environment. So it's not a question of the NYC. It's a question of Benin and Togo, who are, you know, shady enough to entertain such a poor moral principle in their academic sector.
My question in particular is the fact that he already has gone through the process of NYC. He
Yes.
registered for NYC before,
Yes.
obviously, went throughout the whole biometric process
Yes.
and all.
Yes.
And he's coming again for the second time, which is not supposed to be so.
What's your point?
So what exactly
No, the
is
thing
wrong
is
with
this.
our biodata?
No. The thing is this. I think in Nigerian education system, if you are under the age of 30, you are liable to go for NYSC.
Multiple times?
No. This can happen. Okay. There's no law. I will say that there shouldn't. Perhaps there's no any law against it because it could be difficult for them to capture that data. Although it may be a problem on their own side. But look at it this way: if you acquire your first degree at the age of 17, 18, people do that today. You go for your NYSC and you decide to pursue your second degree. Logically, if you are done within, under the age of 30, you can still go. Do you get, if you are interested? Some people are not deliberately interested, but the fact that you are interested does not limit you because you have served, bearing the certificate you carried the first time. You are serving again with the other certificate you bring. You get? I don't think that's a problem of anybody. Although we may now have a round table talk and say, oh, this is a bad thing. If you have undergone this before, you shouldn't do it again. Well, that's a question of our, common idea around it. You get? But I don't think it's really a thing over NYC itself as a body.
All right. You made mention of something very interesting in the beginning of this discussion. You said, talking about institution setting and the way the criteria that are supposed to govern those institutions to be able to be established, it tells on the behavioral nature of the certain place which is being situated. Now, for the past so many years, graduates from this institution have walked into Nigerian markets and Nigeria have accepted those certificates brought from those places. Now, for the fact that they did approve those certificates, it means that whatever was used to bring those institutions to existence was with the Nigerian way. Because if Nigeria did not see it as up to standard as of then, they wouldn't have applied and agreed to those certificates. Now, this is the question. For those long time that those certificates have been agreed and used in Nigeria, what was happening?
The problem is this. Again, we should avoid the danger of overgeneralization. Let us simplify this. You are distributing a good like that, and between us there's a conventional agreement that before you can produce or perhaps distribute these goods must attain certain level of standard. We all agree. You know, there are conventional rules, standard guiding education itself globally. If they are taking Nigerian students in University of Manchester in England, that is over the assumption that they have undergone the conventional education programs. You get? They will not be interested in, you know, coming to University of Ibadan where you have graduated, because they know that that school is already maintaining that global standard. So it is the expectation of anybody who is a practitioner of that particular stuff to imbibe that value, that cultural stuff. So Nigeria is assuming, which we will not blame them over, that those schools are producing conventionally, you know, certified graduates. So if it now comes out that somebody is doing investigative journalism and discover that it is, and they have to stand up like they have done now and say, okay, if this is what you have been doing, okay, let us cut it short at this level. Do you get it now? So although you are going to agree with me that the domino effect is actually reflected in our progress as a people collectively, because if we have graduates who are not producing what are to be produced, that attests to the substandard nature of their
exactly where I want to come in. When you made mention of assumption, yes, very well, when you said assumption, it means that there is no accuracy. Yes, when you are assuming, you don't have your facts. Don't have a fact to back it up. You don't have an evidence to back it up. You just feel like it should be that way. But it might possibly not be that way. Now, on the progress of a nation, education is very paramount to it. Now, when you have baked or possibly not even baked at all, graduates coming from there, and you assume that they have met some criteria and they have done well, you've given them a job. To handle a parastatal in your country, don't you think is a big fault on Nigeria to have assumed in the first place to accept these people?
Okay. For those of us who are in academics, perhaps you misunderstand my usage of assumption. You get? In academics, you don't make definite claims. In fact, if you come out with a study and say this is what you have found out, it is to a considerable extent an assumption. Because at the point in time, scientific undertakings can be done that is going to override your conclusion. Look at it this way. This is a firm. This is an organization, for example. You are taking graduates or anybody who has experience in journalism, who has maybe worked in other stations like that. You expect that they should have attained certain level of stuff. If they come to your office with their CV, saying they come from this organization, naturally you want to know that, oh, these people are people of impeccable character now and integrity. You're going to accept them, won't you? So it is not your problem. It is the problem of those who have, maneuvered the system. That is what we are saying. Because in reality, we have our problems in Nigeria as a country. Of course, we are going to touch that when we get there, because the problem overs around Nigeria's inability to, give adequate recognition to our ASU. You get it still boils down to it. You like it, you don't like it. ASU over the years, they have made their case for Nigeria to provide them certain things they need so that we can accommodate the consumer market in the Nigerian society. So they can, they can give admission to a large number of students, irrespective of how many they are. But the country is not providing that. That could be a problem. But saying that we should, it is not an assumption. You went to school, you create a school. Before you create a school, you must satisfy certain preconditions before you are accredited. Otherwise, you are not expected to create those schools in the first place. So if you have now bypassed the process and create those institutions, is it a problem of Nigeria? Do you get? It's not a problem of Nigeria. It is just the problem of you manipulating the system. And whenever I discover that you are producing half-baked, below standard graduates, I can stand up and say, oh, I'm not going to take this any longer. Do you get it now? That is what I think.
Now, where I'm trying to come in is this. Okay. You made mention of University of Manchester, as you believe that, this is the top-notch university. Yes. They're supposed to give you a very good graduate from them.
Okay, and we have Nigerian graduates going there for their masters.
Of course.
Using their first degree.
We understand that. Okay. Now, looking at these parameters that you've said, are we not supposed to have a standard in our country enable, because now, as you also said, the education sector, it is a very paramount place for building of a nation. So when we have this at the back of our mind, we are supposed to have our own kind of, let me say, a standard, so that whenever we have this kind of people, we're able to check and balance, not waiting for what if this investigative journalist never did what he did? We'll still be taking this big graduates and feel like they are good and competent.
I am a lecturer. I like analogies very well. Now let us go back to University of Manchester. Over the time, they have come for brain drain. I mean, they have come for, to lift our brains from Nigerian universities, in fact, from our workforce. I don't know if you are familiar with that. From UK, sometimes from the Asian world, the Arabic world, and so, they come to take our graduates, a medical practitioner. They get nurses, doctors over the years. That means they have recognized or perhaps accepted that this set of people are people of standard. They didn't go to Benin Republic. They didn't go to this. Now, the thing they are doing when they take your students is that they have satisfied this standard, these processes in your country. If in the long run they now discover that certain people, certain elements do not satisfy the basic standard, they will come for their investigation, like we are doing this in Nigeria against Benin, against Togo now. Oh, when they discover that you are manipulating the process, well, you say this, we're not taking students from this again. Do you get it? It is not all the schools from Nigeria that universities in Manchester, in UK, everywhere take students from now. You get, your school must have attained that level of global standard before they can recognize students from your school. You cannot just go from mushroom school and say you are taking admission. They are not going to take it. That is why when they ask for your transcript is going to be, it's given in that way. But unfortunately, in Nigerian market, they may not request for your transcript before they give you employment.
Exactly.
That is where the problem is. And the Nigerian market is not the Nigerian school, NUC. Are you getting it now? As a graduate, for example, somebody can go to any business in town and say, please employ me. In most cases, they are not going to take your transcripts. Meanwhile, that is not the problem of NUC. So what we are saying, or what I'm saying in essence, is that if there are conventional standards to be followed, whoever manipulates or perhaps maneuver it in order to achieve a provincial aim, of course, they are going to face the music like these people are doing now. But I'm saying again that when the quality you are to produce are below standard, we are going to trace that to perhaps the shady nature of your admission or of your process altogether. And as a result of that, we're going to pounce on you and come back, heavily like Nigeria is doing now. That's what I'm saying.
Well, as regards the investigation going on and the suspension of degree certificates from Benin Republic and Togo. Now, some National Association of Nigerian Students over there are pleading with the federal government that they should consider some students who have undergone due process. Now, do you think that the stance of the government at this moment, stopping every certificate coming from those countries, is the right thing, or they should actually consider this?
Well, I would say it's the right thing.
And how do they go about it?
I will say it's the right thing. Different problems require different solutions. In fact, you must understand the context and the complexity of your and the complexion of your problem before you can apply solutions, appropriate solutions. In Africa, you don't show people that you are in power, in control, by being so soft. These people who are violating the regulation, they know what they are doing. They know deliberately that they are tampering with the process. Of course, if we come out heavy on you, there shouldn't be a problem with us. Although I am going to blame the federal government or Nigerian, NUC generally, for the inability to provide that market for our students to, secure admission and go through the students who are in Benin Republic. They are spending far above the amount they should have spent if they are schooling in Nigeria. So if there are opportunities for them, of course, they are going to do it in Nigeria. That's what we're saying. But the inability to provide it on the part of the government could be a problem. You get. But how we react after, if I find out that you are stealing as my child, I will punish you. I'm not going to say maybe you stole because I didn't give you meat. Do you get it? I will punish you first. When you recognize that I'm punishing you for that thing, I may now resign my order and say, okay, let us see if there's going to be a better approach to doing that. You get what Nigerian students are doing, like the representatives. That's fine. Of course, there will have to be a kind of prayer group that is going to speak on their behalf. It is a normal thing, but that does not mean it is right. Because they should consider the domino effect, the aftermath effect of that problem itself. Consider somebody who is not well trained as a medical doctor treating you. Can you be safe with your? Can you repose confidence in their work? You cannot. I cannot entrust your life in their hands. Somebody who is to be a medical doctor and he has gone to acquire his certificate for 1 year. It is not possible. So imagine you giving your company for somebody who is not suited for the job. So these are we should think of the consequences before we can begin to justify how valid the action we are taking is. When we know the extent of the consequences, that this is right, this is wrong. Do you get what I'm saying? So that is my position on it.
So you are trying to say that this should go on as long as
for now, yes, it should.
Or temporarily.
Of course, it should, because they are tampering not only with the image of Benin and Togo. They are, diminishing the standard or the image of Nigeria. Because if you are a graduate of Nigeria and you say you are going to Canada that study, they may assume that you got your certificate from Togo, and that is, Togo is not feeling it now, but Nigeria will be feeling it. Do you know the irony of all this is that these are countries that they are French-speaking, Francophone African country. Can you see that audacity? So let there be a kind of punishment, and you are creating a school for students and specifically organizing an English lesson, something for them. Where your country is, so it means you are there for business. That is capitalist orientation. And when you pursue things at the expense of moral principle, conventional moral principle like that, you must see the consequences however they come. Do you get it?
Well, the investigation has gone even down to Nigerian institutions, because I think they recently outlisted some many institutions. Yes, some like National University of Nigeria and KAFTAN, Nasarawa State, and the rest of them. So how do you expect now the government to deal with these issues? Because when we talk about it now, we see that the students somehow are at the receiving end. So how do you expect them now to go about the entire issue?
We have to actually look at our general disposition to education as a country. Do you get? Because the Nigerian elites, they are so condescending, so detached from reality. That is one of the reasons why they think education is something you can tamper with without consequences. As a matter of fact,
leave this thing to the, to the care of NUC. Let them take care of this. But you imagine that the political class is, manipulating the process a lot. When you look at this private institution, it is either an ex-president, an ex-governor, an ex-whatever is creating the school, or the relative of ex-whoever, ex-so, who I can bet you jump the process before they create these schools. So they do not satisfy the basic requirements for accreditation before they create these schools. Now, the problem is now not felt on them. It is felt on the populace entirely, because that is when you create, like we have said, produce graduates who are substandard. Globally, graduates who cannot meet up with the basic requirements of the global standard. They cannot compete with their mates here and there. You get, look at graduate of OAU, look at graduate of University of Ibadan, look at graduate of University of Lagos. You can be sure that these are qualities, because you can be sure that they do not compromise their standard in most cases. But look at the private institution we have. Let it be known that private institutions in Nigeria are actually cautioning the effects of not having enough schools in Nigeria. In fact, you have to give them kudos on that. I went to a conference last year like that, where we were discussing the importance of private institutions with relation to the public ones, side by side. You realize that the private institution is providing the necessary market for students who are seeking admission year in, year out. But you ask yourself, what is the percentage of students that these schools are catering for? Regardless of their number, we have about 147 or 8 of them in the country. They are still not producing as many as the graduates from public institutions. So, one, you ask yourself, why? One of the reasons, I think I am going to attend the conference very soon, perhaps in Kenya, and that's one of the things I'm going to discuss. One of the reasons we have this is that you realize that private institution is usually guided by money. They look at what is selling in the market and create, department for them. This is what is selling. They create department of music, department of social, because that is what is selling. But not necessarily what is required to move your country forward. Do you get it? In University of Ibadan now, you can begin to find various departments, various this and that, in accordance with the modern requirements in the global world. But private university, they may say, University of so, these are the number of departments there. University of so, these are the number of departments there. So, this is a problem. It is a problem because they, in most cases, do not have the, the gadget, the facilities, all those things needed to at least train the students to become the graduate they should be. And so if it continues like that, it's a problem on the country, not on them. And don't forget that Nigeria, we are used to this big man syndrome of a thing. You want to do like this before you went to University of McDonald. And these are the people we went to do masters together, and we saw how on that they are. You get, when we began to compete in the class, we know that they are not as good as you. I know when you are doing your masters in UI, like you see them, they come for a masters and they say, oh, really, go that to me, and that is the product of what we have undergone compared to them. I finished from Adeyemi, and there's no place I get to where you can just bully me and say I should go know if we are in the same line of study. Do you get it now? So that is content, that is quality we are talking about. Imagine now that they are not producing it. It is affecting you, it is affecting us, because whoever we employ from all those substandard stuff, they are not going to produce. Meanwhile, productivity is the one thing that drives this country forward. What are we producing?
All right. From what you've just said now, if I'm going to hold you to what you've said, if I do understand what you've said.
Okay.
So talking about the private universities in Nigeria, you said they're structured the way they do things according to the demand of the market.
Yes.
What the market demands.
Yes.
So are you knocking out credibility from them? That is one. Secondly, when situations arise this way, the way we are seeing it at this moment, mostly we point accusing fingers to the government and let's say the institutions. But now I want us to look an in-depth look into the society. Where do you think the society also have fault in raising this kind of substandard graduates?
The society, how? I'm going to come to how, but I'm going to say this too as well, that to be candid, not all these schools are mushroom schools. There are some schools in Nigeria, private schools in Nigeria, that you are going to give kudos to. You talk about Babcock University, you talk about Leeds University in Ibadan, you talk about, I think McDonald too. But I must be frank with you, when you hear some private school institutions name, you ask yourself that, wow, where and how? You don't even know they exist. In fact, so I was reading some of the name on the list. I was like, you too, you're on this list. It bothers you that apart from not having that common acceptability that schools should have, you doubt if they are producing the standard they are producing too. That is what I'm trying to say. Some of them that are at least at the front line, like I've mentioned, some of them are doing excellently fine. But so many of them are not doing, up to standard. And that's one of the reasons why people are coming hard on them. Now, on the contribution of the society, well, I am going to say that the society is contributing indirectly by their inability to vet the process or perhaps the quality that a school produces before they send their student there. You see, many parents are usually under the pressure that my children should go to university and acquire this and that, not minding if the process is fine or not. In fact, a student that is responsible for the child success in exam through, backdoor stuff, all these special this and that, they don't mind whatever their school goes, their children go, in as much as they can, have the certificate in the long run. Whereas they are inadvertently supporting a wrong system that is producing a wrong result. So on that, I may say the society is complicit. But outside of that, I don't see, it is not I am not the owner of any school, for example. Naturally, if I can afford what you say, this is your fees and that, and I think, in most cases, I can send my children there. So it now lies on you producing substandard quality, because you have this kind of insatiable expectation as a capitalist.
But if you say you don't really blame the parents or the society, I want to believe if you want to go into a business, because you are investing in your children.
Okay.
If you want to go into a business, of course, it should be a profitable one, because you don't want to run a loss at the end of the day.
Okay.
So if I'm spending millions to take care of just a child through their educational background and the rest, and I don't really have patience or I don't care about how they are going to be impacted, do you think that really makes sense? Okay.
I am going to give you a very good analogy for that now. Look at it this way. In Ondo, for example, you have a very many number of schools in Ondo. Some of them taking a huge amount of money at their fees. I don't know if you have heard before of schools that take, I don't know if that is in Ondo, but schools that take as high as 1 million naira for the fees of their
tuition fee.
Their tuition fee. And there are still some schools that are taking as low as maybe 50,000 naira. Are you getting it? And in the real sense, you can hardly differentiate the quality of the student they produce in the long run. I'm a teacher, but I believe this is what obtains in many of these institutions. So we are saying a syndrome, a generous big man syndrome is affecting so many of Nigerians. They have been unable to see the way that their investment is actually affecting the nation positively or negatively. The parent that has taken the child for a 5-year-old son or daughter for 1 million tuition fee per year, I don't think they are interested in what that child is producing. I think they are interested in maybe, doing this, showing all these braggadocious stuff against all that. Because when you compare what these students are taking and students from success are taking, students from demonstration are taking, you will see that sometimes even students from demonstration are going to outdo them. Do you get it now? In most cases, we organize the debates competition for some of them last year like that, and come and see how I think a student from very, very unpopular school like that, vibrating all this, and you could just be wowed by his performance. Even people who are paying higher than him could not perform like he is doing. So what we're saying is, it is a syndrome. It is a syndrome that is affecting the Nigerian populace. It's not a question of you interested in the way they impact your child or not. If your friend's children are attending a school where they pay 1 million naira and you can afford it, you will be pushed to go there for your children. You know that, right? So it's not a question of are they impacting them. No, it's a question of I'm in Los Angeles now. Yes, I can afford it too. Samuel, you are going to that school. So that is the problem. It is not the problem of you not interested or interested in the way the schools impact them or not. That's the way I see it.
All right, coming down to the issue of this whole scenario that plays out in our society, would you blame it particularly on the fact that on the high demand of degree certificates out there, and the less demand of skills, or what exactly will you pin it on?
That's a problem. In all sincerity, we as a nation, we should de-emphasize certificates qualification if we are going to move forward. When you look at countries that are doing fine, that are producing, in most cases their citizens don't even attend tertiary institution. In America, how many of them are going to a tertiary institution? In UK, is it not our populace here that are even, you know, dominating? There are so, maybe, I don't know if you have heard that before. So many departments in UK, they are made up of Nigerian migrants. They are a department, you get. So it is because we emphasize certificates holding at the detriment of skill acquisition. That is a wrong thing. That's a bad thing. And this is one of the points I made earlier on, implicitly. Now, look at all these private universities. How many of them are exclusively based on technical education? How many of them are based on skills acquisition education? Do you get? It is all these philosophies, it is all these medical, it is all you get, because that is what they believe we sell in Nigerian environment. You can hardly find somebody creating a private university where they are going to be training tailors for skill. You get? They hardly do that. So it is a problem. It's a common problem we have as a nation, that we have to actually move or shift away from that to a more, you know, a more flexible, fluid approach to our education. There should be a less, I mean emphasis on certificates holding. Yeah.
All right. You now, this is a very straightforward question to you.
Okay.
As a lecturer.
Yes.
Now, I do want to believe that you understand a lot of scope that governs education and the criteria that are supposed to upheld them to help a nation. Now, Nigeria as a country, you as a lecturer in Nigeria, which you believe that the standards are supposed to be high. If you are looking at the standard, what are the standards that you expect educational institutions to have, so that we can be able to have the kind of graduates that we envisage and we pray for to build Nigeria as a nation?
One, you must have facilities. Be it in science, be it in arts, be it in sociology, or anywhere you have it today, you must have facilities now. Before you can say you are training a medical doctor, you don't have all the gadgets necessary for them to undergo the training. Of course, you are not training medical doctor. You are training herbalist. Do you get? That is one. Two, you must have what they call the personnel, you know, the intellectual personnel that will impact the knowledge. As a school, you must not, what do they call it, to manage, you know, qualities. Oh, you know, when you look at many private institutions, though, if you are a fresh graduate and they say that you are looking for employment, they employ you. You get, regardless of if you have the ability to deliver or not. That should be, you know, condemned, either you like it or not. If you don't have the right personnel to take your children, or your students through the educational, you know, knowledge that they require, you know, to transform their mental stuff, of course, you are not going to produce what is expected in the long run. In other words, you must have the equitable, you know, intellectual resources who are going to transfer knowledge to students in your school. I've mentioned facilities. I've mentioned personnel too. In a way too, I don't know, but you know, apart from facilities, you must have available lecture theaters and all. Classrooms must be available. In University of Ibadan, a class, for example, when you see students in a class, maybe 25 of them. In Adeyemi, will it not surprise you that we have some classes that there are as many as 500 students? So how do you expect me, you know, to control the students effectively? It is not done. So let there be classes that can contain them, and let there be enough personnel. Such a class can be divided into 4 if there are enough personnel. And we say, okay, you take this, you know, this group of students, you take this group. It's going to be effective in the long run. But if you don't have it, I doubt if you are going to have very efficient graduates at the end of the day. So that's the game. And there must be a quality support structure. You know, all these things I've mentioned, they are quality support structure, by the way. You cannot talk of quality without making available the quality support structure. So you must ensure that, you know, they have the nice environment that is going to help them. You must ensure that you have the right personnel that is going to impart knowledge. And you must ensure too that you have facilities that they are going to use, you know, as practicals to ensure that they move to the next level. Otherwise, you are not going to have what is...
Now, there's something that you said that really interests me. You spoke about personnel.
Yes.
Now, in the educational sector right now in Nigeria, we have a lot of brain drain. People are running out due to some policy and some things that are not favorable to lecturers and people in the educational sector. Do you think Nigeria at this point can give all these, especially in the area of personnel, to give you the kind of graduates that you wish to have?
We can. Over the years, or since the beginning of time, there has always been brain drain everywhere. Of course, the Nigerian situation could be peculiar. And I must be frank with you, go and look at the record of the 1970s, 80s, 90s, 2000. You will realize that doctors are taken from all these countries. In fact, there was a time when University of Ibadan was University of Ibadan, people from Saudi came for medical checkup in University UCH in Ibadan. Do you get it? So if they had the opportunity of taking the personnel, that they will. But that does not mean we will be short of personnel eventually. Do you know the number of graduates that are looking for jobs in this country? So the thing is that we are blessed with human capital. It is only that we are not maximizing that opportunity, in India, they are deliberately exporting personnel in India. Yeah. I think is it their MIT or something like that. When you graduate from that institution, they export you to America. America is exclusively looking for people from that school. So we are saying, once you understand that you have the mental capacity to offer what is needed at the global market, produce them. It is business. In fact, if I were Nigeria, for example, I would just say, okay, well, let us produce so number of doctors. If they need them in Holland, go to Holland. We send so amount of money to Nigeria in so month, so year. We are making money. It is business. So brain drain can be used positively too, if the country or if the government is deliberate about it. But the problem is that most of the jackpot that we do in Nigeria, we do it individually, not collectively. If I japa now, I japa because I want to, improve my own economic standards, social, this and that. But if you go as a collective, you are going for a purpose. When you see Indians in UK, they go as a group, a body. They have something, they have a target. Once they are done with the target, they go to their country. We have a set of students, so in Canada, once they achieve their target, they go to go and develop it. But if you go individually here, who is here, I should go back. Do you get the idea? And that's the problem we have here. We have as many as possible. I have a doctor friend now who just graduated in University of Ibadan. I mean PhD holder. We had our masters together. Okay, he's still there looking for employment. Imagine that Tripton travels out now. He will be doing fine there. I have a number of friends that are doing their PhD in America. They are doing fine there. That does not mean we are short-staffed. But always provide the avenue for new ones to come up on board. Because if you don't encourage them, yes, except people like me who is just passionate about teaching, I will have gone. In fact, I have that opportunity of going. If you want to run your PhD abroad, free, I'm saying funding, it is available. So, but some of us are just like, I want to give back to my society. That is the philosophy behind mine, by the way. And in as much as I'm doing that, that's my own definition of success. Success is not about you can achieve. So, but on that part, if the government can weigh in on that, of course they can maximize the potentials inherent in it. That's my position.
Well, coming back to the issue of our foreign institutions as regards Nigeria's issue, do you think that there are particular loopholes that these institutions are holding as an advantage towards executing some of this, acts
for foreign institutions?
Yes.
How you mean?
Yes, exactly. Probably there are certain loopholes they've seen in Nigeria that they are holding on to as an advantage.
The only loophole is that we are not providing academic opportunities for our graduates. The only loophole is that when you have 1,000 students, leaving their secondary school yearly, for example, we only take about 200 of them, 300. That's the loophole. And they say, okay, come on, we have opportunity for you, come and study. That is as simple as that. It's like you want to buy wig, for example, and somebody who is meant to be your supplier say, okay, I don't supply Brazilian wig, I supply so, and you need Brazilian wig. Somebody just comes and say, okay, come and take this. Even if the Brazilian is a Igbo Brazilian, you are going to go there. So that is the problem we have. Are you getting it now? So if I think there was a time like that when, was it ASU now? I think it was ASU that demanded that if the government could make enough financial provision for them, they are going to structure our education system in such a way that if you go to school in the morning as a graduate, there will be some undergraduates going to school in the morning. There will be some maybe in the afternoon or something like that. So, it's going to enable them to take as many as possible students who want to acquire education. That way, it's going to reduce the burden of seeking unnecessary admission elsewhere, like our students, as our Nigerians are doing. We didn't complain of Ghana, for example. We have Nigerian students in Legon, students studying there. So automatically they have upheld those global standards we have mentioned the other time. And that's the more reason we say, okay, go, continue to do it. So in as much as we are underpaying or underfunding the education system, we will continue to have such a problem.
Out of the issue of accountability.
From the part of who?
From part of the institutions.
Of the institution, the Nigerian institution. Yes. Accountability, how?
That's regarding this issue of registrations and some setting recordings or probably data on the students and also results and some of those things.
Accountability, if you ask me, will have to, majority of it will border on private institution. Let us be realistic now. Of course, I'm on here. I have had a situation whereby owners of certain tertiary institutions will tell some people that bring money, I'll provide certificate for you. Do you get it now? It is because that's being private allows them to, you know, manipulate the system that way.
But we've also seen such with government-owned institutions too.
What you can accuse government institution of is that they sometimes allow their students, you know, to maneuver some processes. But saying, come, I'll give you, if such a person is caught.
Okay, no, I'm going to give
instances.
Yes, I know. I'm going to give an analogy this way.
Okay.
The person that says, "Give me money," take certificates.
Yes.
And the same person that said, "Okay, you've passed your jump. Okay, you can just register, but you don't come. By the end of the day, you come here and get your certificate." Are they not say the same?
No, I've not seen that. You are bringing it to the table now. I am not really, because, well, maybe it's my opinion or my position on that is determined by what I've experienced. You cannot do that in Ademi Federal University of Education, for example.
That is one out of over 1,000.
That is what I am familiar with. You cannot do that in University of Ibadan too. I am familiar with that too. You know, you cannot hardly do. I don't think you can do that in OAU. But I'm saying there are most of these schools that do this, they are mushroom institutions.
But if we're getting this thing right, for every act that is being carried out, is being driven by your mindset.
Yes.
You are human.
Yes.
Your needs and your wants are insatiable.
Yes.
Of course, you want to gain more.
Yes.
And the same human being that we have in these private institutions that are carrying out such acts which is condemned, we have human beings too in other institutions that are owned by government.
That is where
so are you saying
that is where system comes in?
System, but people are there making
I'm
decisions
saying that
too.
is where system comes in. Let me explain what a system is, for example, to you. If we say that, you know, every human naturally, we are naturally predisposed to evil. If you are not, you know, restricted by certain regulations, you know, right? If nobody is going to beat you now and there is a meat on the table that is not your own, you will take it. But if they say, if you take this meat on the table, I will cut your hand. That cutting of your hand will actually restrict you from taking the. It doesn't mean that you are holy. It doesn't mean that you have any fear of God in mind. It is the system, that structure that is available that is presenting you. But if nobody is going to take you, like in the private institution is now, they believe nobody is going to, you know, hold them accountable. They can take the meat on the table, like admitting students without following the normal process. Are you getting it now? But in public institution, I'm not saying there couldn't be people who do it, but trust me, they are playing with their life. Let me use that language. Because once caught, trust me, they can never see it coming. How? If you are, no, irrespective of how big you are, whatever, they will downgrade you because they know that what you are doing is wrong. I know the people I received knowledge under them, they are not going to take shit. I can be sure of somebody like Mama Olajuibi. You are not going to manipulate the process, no matter how big you are. They will drag you. So it is a question of system. There is system that naturally regulates excesses. Humans are naturally predisposed to be, you know, to have excessive actions like that. But once there are regulations and this and that, those excesses are going to be, you know, regulated by them. People who are not doing bad things in the context of religion now, it is because they expect one kind of heaven after they die. You know, if there is no heaven after they die, somebody can just go and slap somebody. You get it? That is what is regulating them. So if you are not interested in heaven now, you can just go and you get the idea. So that is what I mean by system. So it's not that the same person who is doing it in private school, let them come to public school as an administrator and let them try it. They will never try it. That is the reason why somebody who is violating our common rules in Nigeria as a governor, as a senator, when they get to US, they join the train. Because there is a system. It is not that if the system is, you know, if the system allows it, they will use convoy to UK. Do you get the idea? So it is a question of system.
Just in a minute before we go, because we're out of time, what is your final words to the government and also institutions out there?
Okay.
Both foreign and local.
On the final note, I am going to advise every one of them generally that you shouldn't compromise standard education. Because, in fact, you can do every other thing anywhere. If you manipulate education process, the results can be detrimental, destructive for that matter. So as such, I'm going to advise that you don't compromise the conventional qualities, standards of education. One. On the part of the government, I'm going to say they should intensify their efforts in instituting solid, quality, and durable academic process that is going to produce the kind of future that we envisage. Because that will start by their financing. If you are not funding the education system, of course, we are not going to escape all these things that you have mentioned. If they provide the necessary, amenities and all, provide the necessary funding, schools can create lecture theaters and take in more students. School can employ more teachers and take more students. But if the number of teachers in the school is restricted, of course, it's going to determine the number they take too. That is second. On the part of institutions over there, Africans, we should reduce our capitalist aspiration. Excessive capitalism, sometimes compromise people's moral behavior and principle. You want to make money at all costs. When you are governed by that mindset, you are not concerned about what is called standard any longer. In other words, for you to become a better person, you must correct that erroneous notion. And if they do that, of course, they are going to see the reason why they shouldn't compromise the basic standard and principle of education. Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us on this episode of Daybreak.
It's a pleasure to have you in the studio.
Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you as well to our audience out there. Thank you for always coming back to Daybreak Africa. And this is where we'll be drawing the curtain on this episode of Daybreak Africa from Ondo Studio. However, I'll be handing you over to our Lagos station. Do stay tuned. I'm Angela Daku.
And as I always say, being productive, being the kind of person you want Nigeria to be, we start from you. Don't think that anybody is going to do anything for you. Just believe that Nigeria is going to be great, and it starts from you and I remain Micheal Obagiri.